Huh?
Probably the news.
Old news?
I mean, do you have something
We won.
like
We beat Stanford, and very similar to UConn, right? We had a chance to put it away, and we let them hang in there. And for the 18th time, as I told our team in the first meeting, we're going to have a lot of one-score games. And proud of our guys. We found a way to win, but I still think we haven't played a full 60-minute game yet. And now we're going to transition to Cal, Tony. Is that good? Quick transition. I just thought you being from California, knowing the Pac-12, like the more I talked about Stanford, Cal, like this is the Tony week. This is your wheelhouse. We go from Stanford to Cal. You're back in the Pac-12. But transition to Cal, we're going to have to play better. This is a good football team, and it's not hyperbole that there are two missed field goals, a questionable call, and a red zone drive away from being undefeated. And the games they've won decisively. They had a really impressive performance against Oregon State. And what's even more impressive, I always think, like when a team loses a bunch of games in a row and then figures out a way to turn it, like to me that's a sign of a good coach and a good program. And I think Justin is a really good coach defensively. This is the number 2 defense in the conference, the number 1 scoring defense. They're only giving up 17 points a game. Their rush defense they're giving up under 100 yards a game on the ground. And really, they're incredible at taking the ball away. They have 18 turnovers. So they're number 4 in the country in turnover margin. And across the board, they're just, they're good players. They got a Notre Dame transfer as kind of their nose guard, their tackle. Aiden, I'm afraid I'd pronounce his last name incorrectly. But he's 6'3", 320, can 2-gap, does a great job keeping people off the linebackers. Carlton, the defensive end, has 7 sacks. He's 6'6", 275 pounds, and is an excellent pass rusher. Their linebacker, Teddy Buchanan, who's a transfer from UC Davis, is he has 77 tackles. I would say on film, this is probably this might be the best secondary we've played against. They are really, really good. Like every week, we present to our team, the top 4 players on offense and defense. And literally there was a discussion of this is their secondary. We could have put any one of their 4 guys up. Like they play press coverage. People don't get open against them. They're multiple on defense. They'll give you a bunch of different looks. They're just really sound, really well coached, and they're very talented. So this will be, I would put these guys right up there defensively with the Ole Misses and the Clemsons in terms of what we've faced. Offensively, they're an improving team. They're a little younger on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, they start 9 seniors and 1 junior. Offensively, they're a little bit younger, but the quarterback, Mendoza, is a good player. He's 6'5", 225, hits about 70% of his passes, takes care of the football, has only thrown 3 picks on the year. The tailback, Ott, has been banged up a little bit, but going into the season, they were excited he was coming back. He was a draft pick a year ago. He rushed for over 1,300 yards. He was first team All Pac-12 in 23, and he's a difference maker for them. The tight end, Endries, he's their leading receiver, and they have another tight end, number 10, who's he kind of reminds me of the guy at NC State. They're 15. He's listed as a tight end, but if they know you're in man coverage, they'll split him out wide, and if you put a linebacker on him, they're going to throw him the ball. He's a matchup problem, and their receivers are good. Their offensive line has 121 career starts, but a lot of the starts aren't at Cal. They got some transfers there. They got a really good center out of Coastal Carolina. It's a good football team, and like I said, it's you can always look at the extremes of it. Right now we could be sitting here 6-2, or we could be sitting here 1-7. Right, and I just think in the ACC this year, I think there's a bunch of teams in the middle that are kind of, we're all about the same. And whatever team I think is most excited to be there, whatever team executes best, is going to win. So this should be a very competitive game. And we're excited to be on the ACC network and be in prime time and play a really good Cal football team. And with that, I will take questions.
Dave, this time last year, you guys were kind of in the same position. Obviously, that November didn't go the way it is.
Cam, thanks for bringing up such happy memories. You have a good day too today.
But obviously, this time, you're coming off, 3 wins in October, all in a row. Does it feel differently?
It does. I talked about this last year in the bye week, to our team. I said, what was our record last year after 8 games? And of course, being these guys, what generation are they in? Like they're born all in the 2000s. What's it? Gen Z? Like being Gen Z, their idea of history is something that happened 2 weeks ago. Like nobody had any idea what our record was last year after 8 games. I said, guys, we were 4-4 last year after 8 games. This feels different. I think last year it felt we were a 4-4 team that was descending, and this feels like a 4-4 team that's ascending. And I think it's because we had a really good October. But at the same time, if you look how we finished schedule-wise, I don't think there's too many experts out there that are picking the Deeks to go 4-0. I would say there's some really, really hard football games we have in November. All these teams are playing well, so it starts with Cal, but obviously Carolina, Miami, and Duke are all, Carolina's turned their season around. Miami's undefeated, and Duke's having a great season. So, we just got to get to 5 before we can get to 6, and getting to 5 is going to be a challenge this week with Cal. These guys are, I would certainly this is our 9th game, and I would put these guys overall certainly in the top 3 or 4 teams that we've played. And I just think, you look at their NC State game, you look at our NC State game, right? These are all going to be, probably 1-score games. I hope so. I hope this becomes a 1-score fourth quarter game. And it'd be nice to see us, like the step I'd like us to take is to just play a complete 60-minute football game. I still don't feel like we've done that. We've done enough to stay in games and not find a way, and then we found enough to stay in games and find a way. And, I think some of these games, namely the last 2, if we had played 60 complete minutes, they wouldn't come down to, a call or an interception. So, that's really what I'm looking for, is just more consistency on both sides of the football.
Is it potentially that your team listens to you so well, follow every word you say, that when you say there's going to be a lot of 1-score games, they go out and deliver that?
Well, first of all, I don't think anybody listens to me that well, especially the media that cover us every week. Maybe Stan does in the radio show, but even then he's like, okay, Dave, finish your point. No, I just think if you look at our football team this year, I felt good about the front coming back. I knew we'd be challenged in the secondary. And because of that, I even thought if we did get leads, if a team would have to throw and come back on us, that might be problematic. And it was earlier. I think that unit's gotten a lot better. I knew we'd struggle with that early because it was basically almost a whole new secondary. And I give those guys a lot of credit. I mean, I don't know if you noticed who we started the game with at corner. Did you notice that? Well, we get out to Stanford and we're already down Capone, and we're down Travion West. And then the night before the game, Jamari Glasker gets a fever, and if you have a fever, you can't play. And then I'm told he's better, and then he's good to go, and then the morning of the game, he has a fever again. And then we thought we had CD back, and he practiced all week, and he goes out there pregame, and he's limping around. And so, like, on 5 minutes' notice, Zamari, you're starting at corner, and he's been playing nickel. And then Jackson Mull basically had to play the whole game, and then Juju even ended up playing.
Those guys held up pretty well.
They did. They really did. I was so proud of them I really was, because I took a deep breath and pre-game, and you see their Stanford coaches looking down, and they're going, where are your starters? And those guys held up really well. They stayed on top of routes. I thought Zamari played well. Jackson played well. Even Juju got in there and made a play. And I was really proud of those guys. But again, Les, I've coached for 36 years. I've known the years that you go into seasons and say, you know what, let's just hope we don't screw this up. And I've gone into seasons and years and say, you know what, we got a shot, but it's going to be a very thin margin of error, and we're going to live on that edge all year. And I knew this season would be one of those years.
Now that you're in kind of the home stretch, you got no more off weeks, you got 4 straight weeks of games. Is there something now that you know about this team, your squad, that you didn't know when the season started?
Well, number one, we have a quarterback. That was question mark number one the whole year. And as much as I tell you in spring football and fall camp they look great, you guys were rolling your eyes saying, yeah, we heard that before. So I think, what Hank has done to stabilize our offense, and again, no quarterback's perfect, but some of the plays he's given us with his feet and his competitiveness, I think has really helped. I thought Damon Claiborne had a chance to be one of the best backs we've ever had here, and I think that's proven to be true. I would love it if at some point we could ever have Donovan Green healthy. I think if we had a healthy Donovan Green all year, I think he'd be good for at least another win than what we have, and hopefully we'll get him back in this stretch run. Our offensive line, I expected them to be good, and I think we're running the ball a lot better. And then defensively, the transfer to me that's really, again, you don't know what transfers, what you get until you have them. And Branson Combs has turned out to be our Jacob Roberts. He's just been a great fit, and he's really productive. And we're a much better defense when he's out there. So I don't know if I answered your question. I expected our O-line to be good. They are. I thought Damon could be special. He is. I think some of our younger receivers have stepped up. Deuce, Micah Mays, Horatio are playing for the first time. I think Taylor Marin's had a great year. And our defensive front's been solid, and Branson has solidified the linebacker. I think Nick Anderson has really had a great season for us. Just his body control, his open field tackling, and our corner position, which I was very, very concerned about from the get-go. I think hurt us in September, improved in October, and we need these guys to come through for us in November.
Dave, you mentioned Cal's propensity to play press coverage, and you kind of mentioned Donovan. Is there any chance you're going to get a tall, physical, experienced receiver?
Yeah, I'd say, I'd say right now that he is, they have doubtful, probable, what's the 50-50 one? Questionable. Donovan Green is questionable.
Safe to assume your 2 starting corners will be back.
At that position this year, I thought we had them. I thought these guys, they're literally, it's week to week. Some of the stuff.
He doesn't still have a fever. He'd be in the hospital by now. So.
Yeah, but he's been battling little injuries all year. But yes, I expect to have Jamari. We're hopeful to have Capone. We think we're going to have CD. We think we're going to have Jackson and Zamari. So that position, it's like running back. You need a whole bunch of them to get through a season. And so as of right now, we're healthier at the position. If you want to do another press conference tomorrow, who knows? We might lose 2 or 3 of them.
Dave, you brought up Taylor, and because Taylor, the guy never puts you in a bad position on punt returns. There's almost always positive yardage, starting your offense in a better position because of his work on punt returns.
Yeah, we hired a new special teams analyst, Chris Monfiletto, and he basically runs that unit for us. And you got to give him some props. He has done a phenomenal job with that unit. I mean, this is the best we've been at punt return in my 11 years here. And a lot of it has to do with Taylor, but I also think, the coaching of that unit, and it's led by Chris, has been outstanding. He puts together really good game plans. He does a great job of teaching it, and he's gotten buy-in. And Taylor's averaging over 17 yards a return. And that's why he came back. I mean, he wanted to prove he was an elite punt returner. The other thing is Taylor, because of the injuries, is playing outside receiver again. And last week, we gave a couple of our outside receivers chances to make contested catches. The one guy it did is the shortest of the group. And it just shows you how experienced he is. And then even the week before at Connecticut, he caught that little snag route that went for 40 yards. So, it'd be great to have everyone healthy, but Taylor has certainly stepped up for us in a big way, and especially as a punt returner.
Just how important has this last week been after your trip out west, and then like you mentioned, 4 tough games coming up? How important was this week for that?
I think it was really important after the trip out west. I mean, holy cow! I don't know how these teams are doing it 4 times. That trip, I'm telling you, we didn't feel recovered till Tuesday or Wednesday. That's a hard trip, and going out there is easy because you get the extra 3 hours. But after a football game, and it's basically a red eye back, and nobody really sleeps, and then you get back here at 4 a.m, and Piper and Scout want to play with me at 6:30, and I'm not saying no to those 2 girls, but your whole body clock is messed up for 2 or 3 days. I really do. I feel for those teams. I think anytime you come back from a West Coast trip, man, I hope we always have a bye week afterwards, because I couldn't imagine having to turn around and play again. And I think it's funny going out there. So what was it, Gen Z? You're in Gen Z. So if you go out to California and you fall asleep at 10 o'clock their time, you would probably wake up at 8, 9 in the morning and be fine. Okay, wait till you get in your 50s. The Thursday night that we stayed out there, I woke up at 2:30, 3 o'clock the next morning, just staring at the ceiling, because I'm just used to getting up at 5:30. That's what time I get up. And it took me, the next day I slept until 5:30. But when you I think going out there early probably was as beneficial for the staff and radio crew as it was for our football team.
Did your boot kind of fuss at you?
Oh yeah, it was bright red, which means my recovery, that's, our team does the whoop band, so I do it too. And if it's red, it means you're not recovered. That night, that was the lowest recovery score I've had in 3 months. And so when it was a 12:30 West Coast kickoff, I'm like, we should have just came out here the day before and kept it at East Coast time. And after that first night of sleep, I'm like, thank God we got out here early. So, and again, I think the players would have been fine. For the coaches, what's our generation, Les?
I'm not a boomer.
So, yeah. So whatever, those people, we need 2 days to adjust the West Coast time. You're learning something here, aren't you? You have something to look forward to. Yeah. Once you hit your 50s, that's sleep. And I used to, parents would tell me that when I was in my 30s. I'm like, yeah, right, whatever. That's not going to happen to me. It's brutal.
Dave, this time of year, still probably kind of portal, figuring out who's coming back next year. Not an update on how those conversations went, but how do you handle that when you feel like the formal play?
All right, so as I told you in our last press conference, that we have a bunch of players that have already been contacted by other schools, and that's the reality of college football right now. And so we took the bye week, and we had, not me, but we had meetings with every player on the team and just get a feel. Like, do you like it here? Would you like to come back? What are you looking for in terms of a role? What is your expectation? And just so we have an idea, and we just wanted them to know that we're not ignoring this just because other people might be making these offers. We are going to revenue share here. That is coming, but we don't want to do that stuff till the season's over. I just didn't want the players to think that we're not doing it at all. But on the other hand, we didn't want to get into details of it and have that become further distracting. So the approach was, we wanted the players to know that we aren't ignoring this, but the second the season's over, we'll meet with every single one individually and kind of let them know that what we're able to do and what we're not able to do. And then they'll have a few days and they can decide whether they're going to the portal or not. So honestly, Cam, you probably know more than me about it. I mean, it's just, here we go, Tony, big picture. Again, I believe there should be a way in college football to keep the season sacred. And the fact that our players are being contacted by other schools when our season is just half over, this isn't what you work all year for. But I also get it. If you're 18, 19, 20 years old, and some of these money figures that are being thrown at them, you can't blame them for wanting to listen and find out about it. And again, I say this a lot, but keep the main thing the main thing. And the better you play and the better we play, your values will only go up, whether that's at Wake Forest or somewhere else. So we all committed to doing this. We haven't had a player say 4 games, I'm done. I'm proud of that, right? A lot of schools are dealing with that. Nobody at Wake Forest did that. So we're committed to finishing this thing the right way. And if they have opportunities to go other places and make a lot more money, there's nothing they can do about that now. That's something they can do in a month. So I'm not naive enough to think that it isn't a distraction. We just try to keep it to a minimum.
Dave, with the first playoff committee announcement tomorrow night, put on your ACC hat for a second. What would be your presentation on behalf of the ACC teams as to where any of the ACC schools fall in that top 12 for a playoff?
I was really more excited about these days 3 years ago and 2 years ago when we were in those polls. That's where I want to be. I want to be looking at that poll wanting to know where Wake Forest is, not where the other ACC schools are. So that's, I hope we can get 2 schools in the playoffs. I think there's a path for that to happen, but I remember in 21 and 22, I looked forward to those shows because I knew the name Wake Forest would pop up. It's hard for me to watch those right now knowing that we're not even in that conversation. That bothers me. That's my goal for our program, is that once you're there, you don't want to not be there. And right now we're not there, and that bothers me every single day.